and angers them. And so in Matthew 22, the Pharisees are trying to trap Jesus, and with the result that Jesus would be arrested and they wouldn't have to listen to his teachings anymore. And so their scheme is to ask Jesus a very clever question and a difficult one, and then let Jesus walk into the trap. And this is the question they asked Jesus, and it is a fantastic one. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Now, why was that such an awesome trick question? Well, the imperial tax was the tax that supported the Roman occupation. It had to be paid, by the way, in Roman coinage, too. And so that would have meant a unit of coin called the denarius. And on that coin, there was the image of Tiberius Caesar on the words, the august son of the divine Augustus and high priest. The mere possession of this coin for a Jew was considered blasphemous and idolatrous. It had an image on the coin, and therefore, along with the blasphemy of Caesar being divine, this coin would never have been used by a Jew except to pay the taxes prescribed. And so much so that when Jesus was a boy, there was a rebellion in which a man named Judas, not Judas Iscariot, but a man named Judas, led a rebellion, and it was against Jews having to pay this tax. And Jesus saw that as a boy, and it was crushed mercilessly by the Romans, and there were crosses everywhere. They crucified people by the hundreds. But the Jews still had to pay the tax. And so, Jesus is caught in this place where I'm either going to have to betray my people, or I'm going to have to betray my government. And Jesus asked them for a coin. And he asked them whose image is on the coin. And they say Caesar's image. And then Jesus gives this world-famous response. Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. And so then the questions left immediately for us is, and for them, well, what is Caesar's and what is God's? How do we discern what belongs to Caesar and what belongs to God? The coin belongs to Caesar. It has his image on it. And it represents the wealth and the power and the brutality and the arrogance of Caesar. But as we think about it, human beings belong to God. God created humankind in his image. In other words, simply put, we are God's coins. God's image stamped on us. We're the sheep of his pasture. We are God's handiwork. We are precious in God's sight. And that says a lot because in the ancient world, life was cheap. And it was thought that 1 out of every 6 persons would die a violent death in the days of Jesus. But life is sacred to the Holy One of Israel. And the great mystery is that humans are as insignificant as dust, and yet we reflect the very image and glory of God. And so God squeezed together some soil and blew breath into it, and then Jesus became dust in save us and rescue God's image in us. We humans are God's coins. God's image is stamped on us, not Caesar's. And humans are God's coins meant to be spent on this world, proclaiming the kingdom of heaven wherever we circulate. During this time, I'm sure Jesus had Genesis 1:17 in the back of his mind when he said we are created in the image of God. We cannot give our souls to Caesar. They do not belong to Caesar. We can only give Caesar the coins with his image on it, because we are made in the image of God. Even the Pharisees, the religious leaders, the ones who knew the law so well, they had to be reminded of this. What were they doing anyway with those coins hidden in their robes? Jesus knew that. They were the ones who had the coin to show him. And so he called them hypocrites and knew their insincerity. What were they doing with coins that had the image of Caesar on them when no good practicing Jew would have been able to touch or look at such a coin? Could it be, my friends, that in these days coming up to our election, where we are thinking about what belongs to Caesar and what belongs to God in our country, could we say that now may be a good time for us to sort out our loyalties and allegiances? To whom do we really belong? Whose image do people see in our lives? In our yards, on the bumpers of our cars, and on social media? Whose image are they seeing? We need to vote. We can love our politics. But Jesus challenges us to discern what belongs to God more than what belongs to Caesar. And the scriptures say, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And that God created humanity in his own image. This election day, we can actually do more than vote. We can take a look and we can see whose image is on our coin. Whose image is on your coin? Jesus said,